Car companies made it sound like a great idea. Turn the engine off at red lights, save fuel, save the planet. But behind that green icon is a system that wears out your car faster and costs you more. Is auto start stop really smart tech? Or just a clever way to meet emissions rules while you pay the price? Let's take a closer look. In the early 2010s, car makers were under pressure to meet strict EU rules on CO2 emissions. So they came up with something simple. Why not turn off your engine when the car isn't moving? That's what auto start stop does. You stop at a red light or get stuck in traffic and the engine shuts off. As soon as you press the clutch or lift your foot off the brake, it starts again, like nothing happened. You don't have to press a button, it just works in the background. For drivers, it meant using less fuel. For the planet, it meant fewer emissions. And for car makers, it was an easy way to meet EU targets, like 130 grams per kilometers of CO2 by 2015 and 95 grams per kilometer by 2020. Every gram counted, and cutting out idling helped. By the end of the decade, more than 90% of new cars in Europe came with start-stop built in. It was sold as a win-win. Better fuel economy, less pollution, no effort. If you're enjoying this video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Now let's take a quick look at how this system actually works. The system sounds simple, but it's actually quite smart. It relies on sensors and software to know when to switch the engine off and when not to. In a manual car, the engine stops when you shift to neutral and release the clutch. It restarts when you press the clutch again. In an automatic, it cuts out when you press the brake and comes back when you lift your foot. But it doesn't always work. On cold mornings, the engine needs to stay on to warm up. If the battery is low, the system skips the stop. If the AC is running hard or if the windscreen is foggy, the car keeps going to keep you safe and comfortable. Even things like steep hills, sharp steering, or extreme heat can turn the system off. In heavy traffic, if you're stopped for too long, the engine might restart itself to stop the battery draining or to keep the oil warm. But here's where things get tricky. In a normal car, you might start the engine twice a day, once to leave home, once to come back. But with start-stop, the engine could start 20 or 30 times during a single trip. All that extra starting adds wear to the starter motor and engine. Every time you turn the engine back on, moving parts rub together before the oil fully reaches them. That's when wear is most likely. To fix this, modern engines use special valves that hold oil near the top of the engine after shutdown. Some use treated surfaces or stronger materials to resist damage. And the starter motor itself is much tougher, built to handle thousands of extra starts. So for the first few years, everything works fine. But if you keep the car for 8 to 10 years or buy it used, those extra starts start to matter. Even a heavy-duty starter motor wears out eventually, and replacing it is not cheap. It's the same with engine mounts and belts. They've been upgraded, but they still take a hit every time the engine kicks back to life. You save fuel now, but long-term, some parts wear faster. That's the trade-off. Now let's talk about the battery. Every time the engine stops, the battery has to take over. It runs the lights, fans, wipers, and media system, and it still has to restart the engine. Because of that, start-stop cars use more advanced batteries, usually EFB or AGM types. They're built to handle frequent charging and discharging, but they're also more expensive. A normal battery might cost around £80, an AGM battery, £150 or more. And you can't just swap in a cheap one. The car expects the right type, or the system won't work properly. Worse, it could damage the electronics. Even these premium batteries wear out faster under start-stop. After a few years, many drivers notice the system stops working reliably. Often, it's the battery getting weak. The car senses this and won't risk using start-stop until the battery is replaced. And replacing it isn't always as easy as swapping it out. Modern cars often require the new battery to be programmed into the system. That means a trip to the garage and more cost. So even though you save money on fuel, the battery replacement can easily wipe out those savings. Then there are problems about air conditioning. In a traditional petrol or diesel car, the engine keeps running when stopped, which means the air conditioning stays active. The compressor, usually driven by a belt connected to the engine, keeps cooling the air. But in cars with start-stop systems, the engine turns off the moment the car comes to a stop, and the AC compressor stops with it. It's not just about comfort, there's a mechanical cost too. Every time the engine restarts, the AC compressor has to engage again. This adds extra cycles to a component already working hard. Over time, this constant start-stop strain can lead to premature wear, especially on the compressor clutch. Many mechanics are seeing this firsthand. AC compressors in start-stop equipped vehicles often wear out earlier, showing signs of overheating and repeated engagement. Replacement isn't cheap. In older vehicles out of warranty, a failed compressor can mean a bill of £500 or more, roughly the cost of several long road trips. Some drivers, especially in extreme weather, choose to disable start-stop entirely. When stuck in 35-degree summer traffic or freezing winter conditions, comfort and safety take priority over small fuel savings. And it's a decision many are making more often than expected. Start-stop systems claim to cut fuel in city driving, but how much does that really save? And is it worth the added wear? Take a typical European petrol car. In urban conditions, it might use 8 litres per 100 kilometers. With start-stop, that could drop slightly to around 7.5 litres per 100 kilometers. Over 10,000 kilometers of city driving per year, that's a saving of about 50 litres of fuel. At an average price of £1.60 per litre, that adds up to £80 per year. Over 5 years, the total savings reach around £400. On paper, that sounds reasonable. But there are other parts affected by constant restarting. The starter motor takes more hits, the engine's crankshaft bearings see more stress, and, as mentioned, the AC system might wear out faster due to constant cycling. If any of these parts fail outside of warranty, repair costs can quickly erase the small savings. A new starter motor might cost £300, an AC repair could be £500. Even a basic battery swap adds up. Even when big failures don't happen, there are still hidden costs. Some systems need software updates or recalibrations after battery replacements. A trip to the workshop, even for diagnostics, takes time and money. Car manufacturers have a clever way of making start-stop systems sound like a win for everyone. They advertise lower emissions and better fuel economy. They talk about cleaner air and advanced technology. But behind the shiny image lies a different reality for the people who actually drive these cars. Start-stop is a cheap trick. Cheap for car makers, that is. It's far less expensive to install than hybrid or electric systems, and it quickly improves fuel and CO2 numbers during official lab tests. That means manufacturers can say, this model emits less, or this version uses 5% less fuel in the city. It's great for brochures, commercials, and meeting EU emissions targets, but it's not always great for the owners. In the early days, some brands even packaged start-stop as part of a special eco trim, making it sound like something high-end. But what didn't make it into the marketing was the cost of upkeep. The stronger batteries needed for these systems are often more expensive to replace. The upgraded starter motors cost more when they wear out. And they do wear out because they work far harder than in cars without start-stop. Most buyers don't find this out until later, often during a repair or replacement. By then, the car has already helped the brand appear cleaner and more modern. Whether or not the driver ever benefited from the system, the real work of start-stop for the manufacturer is already done. And in many cases, it doesn't even help much. For drivers who spend most of their time on the motorway, start-stop rarely kicks in. It's built for stop-and-go city traffic. But even if it never activates, the system is still there, adding weight, complexity, and maintenance costs. Why? Because a car with start-stop might not meet emission standards or could drag down the brand's average CO2 score. Once it became a standard feature, there was no going back. Some luxury car brands have tried to make things better. Their systems are smoother, quieter, and sometimes remember when the driver turns it off. In sport or comfort modes, they may skip the engine shut-off entirely, but most cars still default to on every time they're started. That's not by accident. It shows what matters most: emissions test results, not the driver's experience. So, while the green A symbol on the dashboard may suggest progress, many owners are left dealing with the downsides.